watch my PowerPoint. But tonight, you won't have to put up with me. We have a very, very excellent guest with us tonight who has a lot of experience parenting athletes. But before I introduce her, I would like to start our evening with a prayer. So if you could bow your heads, please. Lord, thank you for the gift of our children and the opportunity they have to play sports. Help us to do what we can to make this a positive experience for them. Help us to always understand that this is their game and to find ways to make sure their experience brings them joy. Please protect all these athletes as they play, keep them safe, and grant that they may have a fun experience that draws them closer to you through growth spiritually, mentally, and physically. May our family here at Paul VI always seek to glorify you in all that we do. Amen. Amen. And now, most of you are familiar with our Play Like a Champion program. We do partner, for those of you that are new, we do partner with Notre Dame in South Bend with their program. All of us have been trained in the Play Like a Champion. And hopefully, most of us remember that training when we go out onto the field and try to win a few games. But the Play Like a Champion mantra is that of character, sportsmanship, leadership, and service. So all of our teams, anyone who's a captain has to go through a captain's course. Every team has to schedule a team mass and or prayer service. And every team has to do a service project above and beyond what the kids do as individuals. So it is a really good program. I think little by little over the years, it has made an impact on our school. Tonight, our speaker comes from, well, I've known her for a very long time. She was here at Paul VI about 4 years ago, I think, 4 or 5 years ago to speak. She has a long and successful basketball resume. Annette was she was the starter on 4 state championship teams at Gloucester Catholic, but that's only because she was at Gloucester Catholic when I didn't play at Paul VI, because we won when I was here. Winning the state championship every year as a high school player. Then she went on to Widener, where she scored 1,568 points, 3rd on the program's all-time list, and graduated from Widener as a nursing major. Annette started her coaching career as an assistant at her alma mater, Gloucester Catholic, and after 6 seasons became the head coach for Glassboro High School. After that, she took over the reins at Bishop Eustace, where her Crusaders won the 2002 Parochial B State Championship, giving her state titles as both a player and a coach. Annette took a break from high school coaching in 2005 to watch her own children play high school and college basketball, but she stayed involved with the game through the AAU Tri-State Tar Heels and the Comets, coaching their youth club. Then Annette moved on to college coaching and joined the Rowan staff as an assistant. After that, she was named the head coach of Penn State Abington for the 12-13 season before she returned to the NJAC, now as the head coach at Rutgers Camden. In her spare time, she also found that time to write a book, which is an excellent read, called Parenting an Athlete, and that was published in 2011. This book looks at all angles of raising a sports-minded son or daughter with the goal of guiding parents so that they positively interact, not interfere, with the development of their student athlete. So for the next 30 minutes, you'll be entertained and you'll learn a lot from Coach Reiter. The one thing I have to say, and I mean it in all sincerity, that I would have loved my daughter to have been coached by Annette at the collegiate level. At the high school level, my daughter was stuck with me, so I can't really say it there. But at the collegiate level, I did everything I could to convince my daughter she should go to Rutgers Camden, but she went to Albright and was very happy. I would have loved for Annette to have coached her. I think so much of her character, her sportsmanship, and her ability to coach. So without any further introduction, Annette Reiter.
Thank you very much, Donna. Wow. The playing and the coaching are things that were great and are great, but I come to you today because I have been a parent of athletes, and I think that that's where I want to talk to you about and where I'm so passionate about that subject. As a coach, I realized, coaching at Bishop Eustace, coaching at the high school level, it was difficult at times with parents coming in, wanting to know why their kids weren't playing. And at that time, I thought it was really one of the hardest jobs being a coach at the high school level. But as Donna had said, I wanted to see my own kids play, just like you did. I didn't want to miss that. So sitting in those stands and then sitting here like you are right now on the doorstep of a season of their high school careers, I was very excited about it. But it wasn't until I was actually in that gym and experienced what it means to be a parent of an athlete that I realized that's the hardest job of all. So much more difficult than being a coach. What I learned was immediately, I knew this as a coach, that that parents' attitudes do directly funnel down to our kids. I saw that as a coach, that it was impressionable on the players, how parents handled themselves. But it wasn't until I was a parent of the athlete that I realized what a big job I had and how important it was for me to, no matter what I was feeling at the time of the event, what I was feeling about when they came home from practice, etc., that I had to really be positive, or how I was feeling and how I acted would directly be related to how my child acted. I wanted so desperately to see my kids, I'm a coach and I know what it's like. I've read the Courier Post, I read the Inquirer, I saw, Johnny down the street getting all South Jersey, all this, and you anticipate as parents the accolades. You anticipate, oh my goodness, I prepared them, especially in this day and age. Sent them to AAU, tried to buy them the best possible equipment, not back in my day in the 70s when, you just played in season and, there weren't the private lessons, etc. So the anticipation was very high in that, oh my goodness, I'm ready, they're ready to move on and play really well. So, but what I wasn't prepared for is everything that sports has to offer my child. I was just looking at it more maybe on what's going to happen, how are their careers going to go. But what you have right now, what you have in front of you right now is so much more than just the athletic, the accolades, the being a part of a team, winning a championship. I think it's really important that we're prepared for everything that sports has to offer. With success, which I know politics is going to have tons of success, but with success, there's always some sort of failure. Even with the greatest athletes that are in the NBA, NFL, everywhere, they've gone through periods of time where it isn't always roses. And it's really important that you learn how to handle success and at the same time learn how to handle failure. You're going to have the exuberance of maybe scoring the winning touchdown, hitting the walk-off single, scoring the last 2 points with time running out in the basketball game. But at the same time, I think way more, kids are going to have disappointment. They're going to have disappointment maybe in the way they played, maybe not getting enough playing time, maybe how their team's doing. So sports comes with both of these. You got the winning and the losing, and then attaining goals. So you set goals for yourself, you attain them. But then what happens when you fall short of that? So we as parents are there to understand that I think we all get trapped a little bit in seeing, wow, here we are, ready to play a sport, and not understanding that with the positives come a lot of adversity. And what happens is, I know I went into it to a point, but not maybe as much because I've seen it from a coaching level, but expectations is a really dangerous word. And what I mean by that is expectations comes from the word expect. So my expectations are we're going to win a state championship, or my son's going to be a starter, or this is going to happen. And then when they fall short because you prepared them, wait, I sent them to here, they had a private coach, it looked like everything was good, it's not their fault. It's not my fault. It must be someone else's fault. So then what happens a lot of times is they're that blame game. Can't figure it out why it's not working out as I had envisioned here at the beginning of the year, and now everything isn't coming to fruition. So it's really important that we're aware of this. I have a good friend that actually, I interviewed him for my book, and he had he's a parent of 3 athletes, and he said he never used the word expectations. He said, as a parent, you have to have anticipations. So you're going to anticipate it being really good, not an expectation, because it's just a little word. But I thought it was kind of clever, because expectations mean you expect it. Anticipate, maybe it will happen. So if you put your mindset at that, I think you enter into the season, or you enter into this journey with your child as a high school athlete much better off. And I found that if you're only looking for the accolades, so we're all sitting here, and you really are, and I know you're not, okay, but I know that in the back of my mind, let's not lie. Like, you want your child to be successful in sports. You want them to be successful in the classroom. You want them to be successful if they're in the school play. There's a lot of competition there too. Who's going to get the lead? Who's going to get this or that? But if you're just looking for those accolades, we're missing, as parents, a great opportunity to help to teach our kids life lessons. And some of these life lessons that sports has to offer are outstanding. I always say, when people ask me, do your kids played sports, how great was that? Now that I'm older, my children are 31, 29, and 24, and sports are finished, I am so glad they played sports. And they didn't win big accolades, because they were so prepared for life. That being an athlete prepares you so much better. Where else can you be able to attain all these skills? I wrote a paper at Rutgers also, and it was a paper about, I did some research about how high school students that were athletes in high school are so much more prepared for college. Think about it, the dorm situation, trying to live with another kid, the more competitiveness. Also, you have a lot more free time, and your student athletes learn how to time manage through high school. So now they get into college, they're doing that a lot better. So when I look back now, not there, but when I look back at my life, I say, thank you, God. Thank you for letting my children be athletes, because I think that really, really helped to prepare them for life. These are real preparation for the future. A little story, my daughter Christina, where I really had a revelation when I decided, not that I was ever going to write a book. That was way out, but my daughter was playing AAU basketball. She was in, I think, 7th grade going into 8th, and she was on one team she was like the best player. So we moved over to Marlton and drove a little bit, and then she was on this much better team, but she was as good as any of the other kids, I thought. And she didn't get much playing time. And anybody that does club sport, you're doing a lot of traveling, spending a lot of money. You're thinking, and the coach that was coaching that team didn't believe, even though it was like an AAU, that the best players were going to play. So there was a lot of games where she would get 1 or 2 minutes, and she's coming from a team, and I really thought she should play a little bit more, but she wasn't playing. I was infuriated inside. It's that pit in your stomach. I can say this honestly, I never yelled at a coach or a ref, and I tried not to do it, but you can't help. I don't care if you're the parent that's sitting there and not making that churning inside your stomach that just eats at you. And I was really frustrated, but thank goodness my husband, who's in the back right now, we were on our way home, and I wanted to say something, and he just hit me, and he was like, no, don't say anything, because I wanted to say, you should have played. I can't believe you're not playing. And so that went on, and she was upset. She cried on the way home, and I said to her, I tried to think of something, and I said, you've got to change your game now. You have to now, when you get out there, you have a minute or two. If you don't do something positive right away, you're out. And she just like, well, that's not fair. Well, no, that's what you have to do. So the season went on. She got a little bit better. She got to play a little more after the season. I was like, that was a lot of fun. What do you want to do next year? And hoping she'd be like, not doing that again. That's what I was hoping. And she said, I'm playing for that team next year, and I'm going to show that coach that I'm a good player. For the first time, I saw her actually take a basketball, go outside, and really work on her game by herself. And then I said, wow, now I really wanted to say something negative. And if I would have done that, that would have absolutely given her an excuse. Oh, I'm not playing. I don't have a shot for playing because the coach doesn't like me, so there would be nothing that she could do about it. But seeing that, the following year, she was a starter on that team and she played a lot. What I realized was, in all her career, she played AAU and then played 4 years in Division III basketball. That was the one season where she played the least and she grew the most. Her game absolutely got better because her back was against the wall. And that's when I just said, wow, we really do. Our attitudes really do funnel down to our children. I really wanted to say something. I wanted to give her an excuse. And that really does. When we give our kids an excuse, even though we could be totally right, we want to try to spin these adversities into a positive so that they can feel, okay, I do have a shot at doing something and doing something about my situation in order to better it. So I decided, I was just going to start interviewing some people, and it was a 3-year process. And it turned into a book. And like Donna had mentioned before, I was really unaware of how much our attitude really plays on our children's, how much our attitude plays on their self-esteem too. This book is not just a book that I wrote, it's a book from parents that I interviewed, like I said, over the course of 3 years. And the common theme was, why didn't you write this book when my kids were playing? Because now we see it from such a different perspective. And I wish I wouldn't have done this. I wish I wouldn't have done that. It goes by so quickly. And it was the same common theme. They wish that they had a do-over. Just a few little hints that's in the book, and I really enjoyed this one from Linda Murphy, and she had 3 high school athletes. And not only was she concerned about the negativity in the stands towards the refs, the coaches, et cetera, but she was really concerned about the negativity towards the players by the parents and to their own children. And she was worried about the lifelong insecurity issues. And here's where that comes into play, the disappointment word. So if I'm saying to my child, you should have done this, and I can't believe you're not doing this, and so on and so forth, they feel they're coming up short in our eyes. Okay, as parents, we want to encourage them. We want to say, oh, everything's fine. No, you need to try to do this, this, and this, or maybe you should work on this. But at times, if they're not attaining the goals, maybe they're not capable of, and like Linda said, oh dear, that isn't me. That maybe the potential that they had, that their parents saw in them, maybe wasn't really realistic. Can sister get off that off? I have problems with Java at work, so I don't know what it is, but that pops up on my screen all the time. And I'm stuck, but that's okay, because we don't really need that. Another parent that I interviewed, he had a son that played soccer. And what he really stresses in this book is how important it is that he never, like if his child wanted to approach the coach or they wanted to talk to the coach about this, that, or the other thing, he said it was absolutely, his rule was it was absolutely that the child had to talk with the coach, the administrators, etc. He didn't want to influence his opinion onto his child, and he wanted to make them accountable or make them have that ability to communicate to others. And in this day and age, with social media, the cell phone, I find that as a college coach when I'm recruiting, the ability for this generation right now to be able to communicate eye-to-eye contact, being able to, when you go out in the real world and you have a job, it's really important that you have that ability. So the other one was Julie McHenry, where the scholarship's important, because I know there's a lot of Division I athletes here, and we should never look beyond that and say it's only about the learning lessons that we should have. I believe it's more about, it's about that, but I think that we can help our student athletes that are going to get this Division I scholarship, that we don't just focus just on that scholarship, that we focus on all the little pieces that goes into being part of a team so that by the time they do enter college, they're going to be even more ready. And a lot of people that, I got feedback back that it's just, and I think the strong thing here is that, and I wasn't prepared, and I was prepared because I was a coach, but really how hard it is and what it takes so that at the end of this journey that you know as a parent that you did everything you could to keep yourself positive, do the best while instructing your children, but at the same time being very positive. And this is Steve. I got an email from Steve. And just in a nutshell, he was a crazy hockey dad. And he was actually an administrator and a high school coach. And his wife had read my book, and he was probably one of the worst people. He had told me later, and how he used to yell, berate his son, go on. And they asked, his wife kept saying, you need to read this book. And he said, no, that's not me. And then one day he realized that he really was a little out of control to a point, and he read it. And he said at that point, he really realized his son was going to be a senior that year, and it was the summer going into his senior year. And he went up, and what really kind of broke my heart in a way, he said he went up to his son's bedroom and went in there and he apologized. And he said, I've wasted 3 years. You were never good. It was never good enough. I was constantly pushing you for more and more. I promise that I'm really going to enjoy this year. And he did email me back after that and said his son had one of the most successful seasons because of him being much more positive. There are roadblocks. There's roadblocks in all of our lives, I think, and God put them there for a reason. If you look, I look back at my life, and some of the most adverse times at the time don't want them to happen. But when you look back at them now, thank goodness that happened. That's the time that you grow the most. That's the time for the most resilience, where you learn character, accountability, and perseverance. A little story about my other daughter who played college basketball, high school and college basketball, Division III. She was a starter her sophomore year. Yeah, she played a lot her freshman year, was a starter her sophomore year. Her junior year, she wasn't playing much. So things were going a little crazy, and I would get those phone calls all the time. And I constantly told her that that's just the way it is. You got to learn. And one time she started the conversation by, I don't want to hear anything about life lessons. I just need to vent. So I let her vent, because it's really important. We need to be that. That's why I stopped coaching too. I wanted to be that person they could vent to. I didn't want to be a coach. I wanted to be the person they can vent to. And that's really important. But when they vent, to try to turn it into a positive. She was having a really rough time, and then going into her senior year, she was a captain her junior year, and then she was going to be a captain her senior year, and her coach had recruited a lot of really good players, and she understood the game. And she said to me, she was called in the office a couple days before the season started and said, I don't know if you're going to be a captain this year, because the freshmen are really good, and I want to make sure I have a captain that is actually going to play this year. So that's kind of like a tough thing to swallow. And it was a rough last 2 years for her. A lot of tears, etc. But she moved on. She ended up going to grad school. She ended up staying at University of the Sciences to get her doctorate of occupational therapy. So in her last year getting her doctorate, they changed the whole curriculum. They changed the whole staff. And she had to go jump through hoops with her and her class, because they weren't going to accept a couple things, and she's already paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, and she didn't want to stay another year. So she fought for that. And then writing her thesis, etc., she called me one night and she said, I really want to call that coach, and I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart. Because if I hadn't experienced all those adversities in undergrad, really, if I hadn't seen that you're going to get knocked down, she goes, I don't think I would have made it getting my doctorate of occupational therapy. And that in itself made everything worthwhile, because we don't know what the experiences our kids are going to have, how they're going to really pay dividends down the road. And I can tell you, as a coach that's been coaching since 1991, I get so many players that come back and they finally get it. Why didn't they get it when they were playing for me? I have no idea. But they come back and they say, I really understand what you were trying. It was really a great preparation. I know I was blah, blah, blah. So that is why I am here today. It's like preventative medicine. Let's not wait till it's over. Let me not interview you 5 years after your kids have graduated and wish that you might have done something a little bit different. I believe that the bottom line is, you have to be positive no matter what. even when we have that pit in our stomach and we feel our kid is being treated absolutely unfairly. There's times when you have to go and help speak for them if there's certain situations, but a lot of the times, if we spin it into a positive, if we blame someone else, we shut the door for our children thinking they can do something about it to improve their situation. And we can always spin adversities into a meaningful life lesson. Just today, I was talking to a couple players about playing time, because that always seems to come up. And I realized just something a little bit different. I told my players that, and a lot of times it is about playing time. So a lot of our issues as parents is going to be, how come my kid's not playing? And just another way to look at it, spinning it a little bit different, is we have 25 games, and then we have playoffs. We practice 2.5 hours. I number my practices, okay? I number my practices. So we practiced 76 times last year, 2-hour practices. We play 25 games, and they're 40 minutes. So 25 games, 40 minutes, 76 practices, 120 minutes. When a kid comes into my office, or you say, I'm not getting to play, I'm like, you are playing. You are a basketball player. You are playing. Being able to step out on the court sometimes, especially with a large thing, is great. That's what we strive for, not downplaying it. But really, the best times we have as a team sometimes are our practices. They're playing. They're learning the game. They're developing, especially if they're freshmen, if we can stay positive and patient early on. That really, when I look back, I won 4 state championships, whippy-do, whatever. I don't really remember who all the starting lineup was. I don't know who broke records. I know we won as a team. And that's what you, even looking back 5 years ago, can you name the great players that were here or whatever? It's really more about being a part of a team. So I'm really passionate about this. I'm really passionate about my book because it's made a huge difference to a lot of people. And again, I never set out to write the book. It's not expensive. In fact, I thought that Steve was my best story because I really made a difference in his life. But just this past year when I was recruiting for Rutgers Camden, I was in a gym, not here, and a parent came up to me and said, I heard you speak at a camp or something. I said, really? She goes, I bought your book 3 years ago. And I said, really? And she goes, there's my daughter. She's still sitting on the bench. She hasn't played much. And I was like, okay. And she said, I have to read your book every year. She said, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for your book, I would have really had her quit. What is this? She's not playing. She goes, now that she's a senior, she's a leader, she's still not playing. And she's really had a great experience in, again, being a part of the team. So tonight, because I really love politics, I do. A lot of people say, I got your book and I gave it to this person, that person, I gave it to this, and it's always going around. I think you need to keep a copy for yourself. She had to read at the beginning of every season. I did have one guy buy 10 because he sat with a lot of wild people, he said once, and he handed them out. But tonight, because if you want 2 books, the first book's $10, the second one's $5. That's what I pay for them, and I just want you to read them. I want it to make a difference in your lives, and I mean that sincerely. I want to come and recruit. I was here a lot last year because I was after a couple of your players, and I want to see, like I usually see, parents in the stands that aren't churning. It's hard to see that because I churned, and I wish I could have done it a little bit better. So again, bottom line, try to be positive no matter what. Thank you. Okay, this can be dangerous. Does anyone have any questions? Nobody? Okay, I knew there'd be someone. Yes. Who wins up, Lisa? Because who do you think's older? Okay. My sister Lisa coaches for Gloucester Catholic. I know it's rough coming in here. I love all the parochial schools in this area, but yeah, she was a much better player. I taught her everything she knew. At least I like to say that. So now I really appreciate Donna, sister. I appreciate I'm passionate about this because really, here's what I want. Here's what I really want for the Paul VI parents. I want your kids to be great on the field, on the court, where they're competing. I do want that for them, great in whatever aspect that is. I want them to be outstanding student athletes. I want them to do well in the classroom because really, quite frankly, that's the name of the game, to get into college and do well in the classroom. And thirdly, most importantly, I want you all to, at the end, if you're senior parents, I want this to be the best year that you enjoy. You really enjoy the journey that your child's going to take that we have no idea what it's going to be. And if you're freshman parents, that at the end in 4 years that you really enjoyed being a parent of an athlete. Because recall what I said when I first started. Being the parent of the athlete is the hardest job, I believe it was, than being a coach. So being aware and understanding what you need to do to enjoy it, that's what I wish for you. So thank you. Oh, question. Yes?
Do you talk at all in your book about how to deal with a kid that wants to quit? You don't want them to quit. Maybe it's too hard for them, or they think it's too hard.
I think that's a great question. What do you do when you have a kid that wants to quit and you don't want them to quit? So that's happened with my son, who my daughters played sports. My son was great, but he couldn't throw the ball in the ocean if he was standing on the beach. He was not athletic. So he always wanted to go out for sports, but once he got the jersey, he wanted to leave. I would find out the real reason, because there could be underlying things, a real reason why they don't want to play. But if it's just not working out because it's tough, my opinion is they stick it out. You have a job. I didn't love all my jobs. Till the end of the year, to the end of you try to see things through. I think that that's really important. And again, I think just like that mom said to me, you don't know, right now you might want to quit, but you don't know, it's a long season, all the things that can happen. And if you stay positive and try to see the positive things and all the things they can, what they're going to get out of that, I think they need to stick with it. This is an easy group. Yes. So I'm 56 and I can't hear like I used to. What did you say? Oh, go ahead. Here, say.
As a parent who gets involved with like Booster Club, and you get involved with your child's sport, things get political, and sometimes the dialogue the kids can hear, and there's some ugliness to it, and it does influence them. I mean, it kind of takes away from the magic of the sport to make things run. So how do you shield your athletes away from that stuff?
I knew I shouldn't ask questions. No, that's a great question. I think sports is a continuation of life, and a lot of times we can't shield our kids. But what we can do is try to teach them the right way and the wrong way. And sometimes the best lessons are seeing someone not act the way we would want our child to act, or the way we ourselves would act. We can point it out. Not pointing fingers, but that's just not the way it should be done, and life is unfair. I think kids that are going into college and even coming into high school, realizing that it's not always, life isn't fair. That's our test in life, I believe. Things aren't equal around. We didn't get a storm. Florida got a bad storm. The islands got a bad storm. We had beautiful days. It's just, life isn't always fair. And I tried, and there could be a million different questions that come up. I try to spin them, and it sounds crazy, but try to spin it into a learning experience in a positive. That's why my kids, even to today, I got something to say, but I don't want to hear about life lessons. So, I kind of overdid that a little bit. And things are political everywhere. So that's rough. That's what makes me stay up at night sometimes in insurance, when I saw that and realizing my kid was really being treated unfairly, or hearing things and it was really not pretty.